Alright guys, before we start the video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second and it makes a big difference on the channel. It helps support the channel, it helps me make better content, and also I upload daily film talk, film reviews, film news, everything that's movie related. And if you're someone who's a big movie fan just like me, then I suggest you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, today's video is going to be purely opinion based. And you guys have read the title already. This is how if I was Kevin Feige or anyone involved in the upcoming Spider-Man movie, this is how I would set up the SpiderVerse. So, alright, so this is going to be opinion based. So, before I say anything, this has not been confirmed yet by Variety, Deadline, or The Hollywood Reporter. Those are the three main sources you should be looking out for. And once one of them releases something about the Spider-Verse happening, then I think, that's just it. That's how it is. Because I actually 100% believe we will be seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield soon. Why do I believe that, you may ask? Well, why else would they bring in Jamie Foxx's Electro? I doubt they would get Jamie Foxx's Electro and not at least try to get Andrew and Tobey. Not only that, but everyone is hyping up DC for doing a multiverse with Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck coming back and, having all these new versions in Flashpoint. So I'm pretty sure Marvel is going to jump on that bandwagon and, go out and compete with DC on the multiverse. And I'm going to say it here first. I want to see both of them have their own multiverse. I am hyped up. I mean, just remember, Kevin Feige didn't want to do Captain America Civil War, but then he heard, oh, DC's doing Batman vs. Superman. Well, let's go ahead and do that, so that way we can be the first ones to do it. And I'm assuming they're going to do the same with the multiverse. So, look, let's just assume right now everything's confirmed. As of right now, it's not been confirmed. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, for sure they'll be coming. But I at least give it a 70% chance they will be coming back, because right now it just looks like it is. And look, this is how I would bring them into this universe, or how I would set it up. So Spider-Man 3 for me wouldn't be a multiverse film. I would actually set it up for a Spider-Man 4, not the third one, but the fourth one, because I believe Tom Holland should complete his trilogy, have a third movie where he's all alone, and not have the help of Tony Stark, not have the help of Doctor Strange, not have the help of anyone. And look, I know Doctor Strange has already been fully confirmed to be in Spider-Man 3, but what I would want is him to be in a cameo, or like at the end, show up. So I want Spider-Man 3 to be a story about Spider-Man on the run. I want the main villain to actually be Kraven the Manhunter. Now, I know the rumors have been saying that it's going to be Kraven the Manhunter, but I genuinely believe I think that's the best possible villain to do if you're going to do a Spider-Man on the run story. Not only that, but I've noticed that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is using characters that we haven't really seen in the big screen, like Vulture, Mysterio, and even Scorpion. So, Kraven the Manhunter, he's never been used on live action screen. So I would personally use Kraven the Manhunter, because it would be original idea. It would be, something new, something fresh, and he'd be, his name, it legit says Manhunter in his name. So I would honestly use Kraven. Look, so have the entire story. I'm not going to go into details on what the story should be. And then, throughout the story, we see, I guess, J.K. Simmons' J. Jonah Jameson show up. And then, maybe have a small scene where, I guess, Jamie Foxx's Electro is doing some bad criminal activity. And then have Spider-Man stop him. And then, have Jamie Foxx say there's a Spider-Man in this universe, or something like that, to tease that he is from another universe. And I think it's just teasing. And then maybe you have Doctor Strange at the end of the movie say the multiverse is in danger, Peter, and I need your help, or something like that. And then in the post-credit, you have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up in Tom Holland's universe, and it'd be the biggest WTF moment. It'd be bigger than Far From Home's WTF moment, where Peter, he got his identity revealed. Imagine if Peter saw all the two other Peters and be like, what the, like, it's kind of like how they ended Homecoming and Far From Home. So that's how I think they should do Spider-Man 3 or similar, someone like that, because I do not want them to just go into SpiderVerse, because I really want to see an evolved version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because I really do believe that Tom Holland should have a third movie where he has no help at all. He has no, Nick Fury, no Happy Hogan, no Iron Man. Of course, he's dead, but they still mention him a ton in that movie. No, Doctor Strange until the end. Have his friends, of course, because his friends aren't super powered or smart or anything like that have power whatsoever. So yeah, have his friends, and don't have the big characters come in and save Peter, because I believe we should get at least one more movie where Peter learns to become his own man, becomes Spider-Man once and for all. And then this is where we go into fourth movie. In the fourth movie, I guess somewhere at the beginning have show Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man falling into this universe. Now, what would be the cause of why they're in this universe? I guess you would have to answer that in WandaVision or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't know how I would do it, but let's just assume in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they break the multiverse some way or another. Before we continue, I actually hope that in that movie they use Nightmare as the main villain. I really love Nightmare in the comics, and I think he would be perfect for a film like this. Not only that, but the image they showed with all the fire in the Multiverse of Madness, that right now is getting me really, really hyped up. And look, in the Multiverse of Madness is the movie I've hyped up the most in the MCU. I think that's the best movie that we're going to see within the next few years, because that one looks great. The name sounds great. Not only that, but I actually love the first film. A lot of people surprisingly don't like the first film, the first Doctor Strange. I'm actually one of the few people who actually love that movie. And I think that movie was just, really well constructed, and I enjoyed it. And also another thing that's really hyping me up for that sequel is Sam Raimi's directing it, and we know he's directed, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and, I love Sam Raimi's directing, and not only that, but he is a horror, director, and I would completely trust Sam Raimi on this project, because if we're going to have horror elements, which, Marvel has said that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness will be the first horror film in the MCU, I honestly think Sam Raimi is the perfect man. Not only that, but he's made arguably the greatest superhero film of all time, Spider-Man 2. So I would honestly, I think I'm proud of knowing that Sam Raimi is back in the MCU. But yeah, I forgot, to address the titles. Now, I guess Spider-Man 3, they said they're gonna complete the trilogy by calling it Home something, Homecoming, Far From Home. What's the third one? I think it's gonna be, Spider-Man Homefront. Something like that. I don't know, honestly. I don't work for Marvel or Sony, so do not come at me asking me that. But I guess the fourth one I know it shouldn't be Home. If you're gonna, I guess it'd be called SpiderVerse or something like that. I think I would actually call it Spider-Man Collapse of the Multiverse. Something like that. Also, one thing I want to emphasize on this fourth film is I think the perfect villain would be Norman Osborn. Finally addressed that there's a Norman Osborn in this universe, because I think if there's one man who could hate Tony, I know Mysterio and Vulture both hated Tony, but if Marvel for some reason wants another villain that hates Tony, which I really hope they don't do, I think Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, would be the man to hate Tony. But let's ignore that. I don't want them to do that. I don't really want them to mention Tony much. And so I would want Norman Osborn of the MCU, find a perfect man to play the Norman Osborn role and have him be really intrigued with this multiverse concept. And let's have him hate superpowered individuals or something like that. I'm not going to go into complete details. I just kind of wanted to do a quick. So, look, have Mysterio also, I guess Norman Osborn wanting to set up a Sinister Six. And, of course, I think he has Vulture and Mysterio on on his team, and now he has Venom, and so he has Venom, Vulture, Mysterio, and himself. So that's 4. And I guess maybe Morbius. I don't know if Morbius, but maybe even Electro. I don't think they're gonna do that for this 4th film. I think they're gonna more do a team up of multiple other villains that Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland have all had. So the rumors have said so far. Look, this is what Fandom Wire has said, and Insider has also said this. They have said that the villains that are coming back are Electro, Scorpion, and Green Goblin. Those are the 3 villains we know so far, and we know this. Electro was in Andrew Garfield's movies. Scorpion was in Homecoming, and Green Goblin was in Tobey Maguire's movie. So, yeah, those are the villains as of now. I feel like they might even have Tom Hardy's Venom. I don't know though, because I just don't really know. But I guess have this movie, Tobey see another Spider-Man, and Andrew also sees that other Spider-Man, which is Tom Holland. They go finding it. They meet, and then they're like, "I'm Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man." It was like, "My name's Peter Parker." And they have all that. And I think that really is how you bring in the SpiderVerse. Mention it. Have the collapse of the multiverse happen in the upcoming film. And wait, I apologize. Sometimes I forget the name, but in the Multiverse of Madness movie with Doctor Strange, I actually forgot which one's coming out first. I think Doctor Strange 2 is coming out first. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but that's how I would bring it in. Mention, WandaVision is supposed to be the start of the collapse. And then Doctor Strange is probably going to be the one that attempts to fix it or something like that in that second film. And then maybe in the Spider-Verse see the repercussions. So basically, we're about to get a trilogy of multiverse in the MCU. WandaVision isn't a movie, of course. It's a series, but I guess it counts some way or another. But that is really how I would introduce it. I'm someone that just wants to see the Spideyverse happen. I don't want it to happen in the 3rd film. I want it to happen in the 4th film. In the 3rd film, I guess you can tease it in the cameo, or in the post credits. I think that would be the best choice, post credit, because I really don't want it messing up the movie. One thing I really gotta say for Kevin Feige, I know he doesn't listen to this, or he doesn't watch my videos. I think that's an obvious. But one thing that I really hope he does is get Sam Raimi in, get Mark Webb, and I forgot who the director of Homecoming and Far From Home are, but get all those 3 directors and have them in a table with the writing staff and talk to them and be like, how should we implement our story? Why do I say that? Because those 3 directors know that version of Spider-Man more than anyone else. And I think, it's just especially with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire. Because let's face it, without Sam Raimi, Spider-Man wouldn't be popular right now. It wouldn't. Mark Webb, phenomenal director, and I want him to tell them how he wants his Andrew Garfield version to do. And I feel like that's what they should do. And then the director for that 4th film, I don't think it should be the director of Homecoming and Far From Home. Mostly because I think his films are kind of plain. I don't even know his name. I apologize, not criticizing him. He's probably a great guy, but I just do not want him directing. Who would I bring in as a director? Honestly, I'm not even joking when I say this, but I would bring in James Gunn to direct this 4th film, because look, the Spideyverse is weird. The Spider-Verse is definitely weird. I mean, we saw it in Into the Spideyverse. And I would bring in James Gunn because James Gunn is one of the very few directors who know how to bring in a, crazy concept and make it look not as crazy. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy, the 2 films. I mean, he directed a Scooby-Doo movie a few years ago, and I think that was actually kind of good. And, all right. And I think he knows how to bring in something crazy and make it feel real. I mean, he's working on Suicide Squad, and from what I see, he's going all the way crazy. And I think a crazy director is really what this Spideyverse film needs. And I think James Gunn, although he said that after Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he's done with Marvel, I would personally get James Gunn. I would go all out and trying to get James Gunn. And I know this video is going longer than it should, but I'm not even lying when I say this. I want James Gunn to direct SpiderVerse, and I know there's no rumors whatsoever saying he is going to be in it. I know there's no information saying that we will be seeing James Gunn directing, because of course right now this is just my dream. This is on my bucket list. And I really genuinely believe that James Gunn is the man to direct SpiderVerse. But of course, there's a 99.9% chance we're not going to get James Gunn to direct. We probably are going to get the same director of Far From Home and Homecoming. But if they were to find a director, then I would say James Gunn. Anyways, really, there are a few things I really hope they don't do. I really hope they don't bring in Miles Morales in this fourth film. And Marvel has secretly casted a Miles Morales in this universe. But I personally would recommend, maybe tease Miles and then save him for a fifth film. Because, tease him in the third film and then save him for a fifth. Because I just don't think I think this movie can't be too overcrowded. And should they bring in Tom Hardy's Venom and should they bring in Morbius? I think they should. Or, I don't know. It depends on how the story. I just hope it doesn't feel too crowded. I feel like the film should not be way overcrowded. And that hopefully, I hope we get the best story possible. If they can't, this is Sony's Endgame. I genuinely believe. So I've been saying for a while, Endgame is probably not going to be, like, the box office record of Endgame will probably never be broken. Because look how long it took for Avatar. And I think it's going to take years for something bigger than Endgame to beat Endgame. Because Endgame, it's tough. Endgame, had all the hype around it. And look, I don't believe there's any movies coming out. Like, I don't think even the DC movies can beat Endgame. Not saying that they're not better. I've always said that a movie's value should not be measured by the box office. Of course, box office is the most important thing. But I don't just say, oh, a movie's good because it made this much money. No, like, I don't like Avatar. Avatar is a good movie, but I don't have it as my favorite. And look, it's the second highest grossing film ever. Endgame, I've always said this, I think Endgame is a pretty mediocre film. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think SpiderVerse, look, of course in the pandemic, that record's not going to be broken during a pandemic. It's not. It's definitely not during a pandemic. If Tenet could only make $300 million, then who knows what these other films can do. But let's assume that the pandemic's over by next year. And we have a SpiderVerse film with Toby, Andrew, and Tom. And, all of their best villains. I will sit here and tell you that the SpiderVerse film is the only film on the radar so far that I know exists that I think could possibly compete with Endgame in box office. I do believe it's a top 10. I do believe it will hit the 1 billion mark. There's very few movies in my life that I will tell you that will for sure hit the $1 billion mark. I think SpiderVerse is one of them. And can it compete with Endgame? Yes, I think it can. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it will beat Endgame, but I will sit here and tell you it will compete with Endgame.